A very warm welcome to everyone joining us today from various places all around the world. My name is Mary Beth Edu. I am the Senior Program Manager for Catholic Engagement for Catholic Relief Services, Strengthening Families for Thriving Children team. And I will serve as the moderator today for our conversation, which is part of the forum on faith and the family, propagating and preventing child-family separation across time and context, which is co-convened by Georgetown University's Collaborative on Global Children's Issues and us at Catholic Relief Services, in coordination with the Changing the Way We Care initiative and strategic partners. The phenomenon of preventable child-family separation is as old as time. Societal approaches to children at risk of losing parental care are largely informed by cultural beliefs and habits. Faith-based perspectives and responses are and always have been an important part of this equation. Christian faith communities, including Catholic communities, have responded to child-family separation in various ways throughout history. Our webinar today on a faith that supports families, Catholic efforts to strengthen families and prevent child-family separation is the final in our 6-part series looking at the Catholic Church's responsibility and response to child-family separation across time and context. Previously, we've held discussions on the idea of a theology of the child and its connection to children's care and protection, and the Catholic Church's role in child-family separation through the development and use of residential care worldwide, as well as during American slavery, in Indigenous communities, and in migration policy and response. During our conversation today, we will consider how the Catholic Church is learning from this history, supporting vulnerable children, families, and communities, and helping to prevent unnecessary child-family separation. Backed by decades of research worldwide and experience gained throughout history, there's global agreement illustrated by the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child that optimal support for a child comes from a caring and protective family. In addition, Catholic social teaching seeks the whole development of the child within a family setting, affirming God's plan to be a child's most important source of love, emotional support, and spiritual guidance. Yet, when vulnerable parents and families do not have the resources to meet their basic needs, or are otherwise unable to access fundamental protections, the risk of child-family separation increases. Today, we'll explore current Catholic efforts to strengthen families and communities and to ensure all children know the warmth and love of a family, as well as emerging and potential efforts to transform the way the Church serves families and communities around the world. What is necessary for the Church to reach this ambitious vision of a family for every child? Given the impressive commitment of the Universal Catholic Church in serving over 9,000 in serving children in over 9,000 residential care facilities, housing approximately 5.5 million children worldwide, how would such a priority towards serving children and families not only change how the Church carries out her ministries, but potentially also change the Church herself? It's important to ground ourselves in the lived experience and not just to think about this in a theoretical perspective. So we have invited Archbishop Thomas Luke Mazusa from Malawi to help us understand the importance of identity and belonging in the life and development of a child. So Your Grace, if you want to come on camera, we'll hear from you now. Your Grace, you experienced separation from your village and from your family when you moved away I believe at the age of 7, upon the tragic passing of your mother. Your father was a Muslim imam, but you grew up receiving Catholic formation, education, and care. How did growing up away from your family and home village feel like for you as a child? How did this experience impact your understanding of your own identity and sense of belonging, both then and later in life? Your Grace?
Thank you very much for the question. I am Archbishop Thomas Msusa, the Archbishop of Blantyre Archdiocese in Malawi. My background is very special as a bishop, born in an Islamic family, and the whole village or the whole area or district, the population is mostly 99.99% Muslim. At the age of 7, I wanted to go to school, so I went to a Catholic parish about 20 kilometers away from my village. There, I was very much welcomed by the sisters and also the priests. The priests and the sisters worked together. I found young boys and also young girls being taken care of by the sisters and also the priests. When I went there, I was warmly welcomed, and they told me, Thomas, you are here in order that you should go to school. What we have discovered here in your area, most of the people have no informal education, no formal education. And they don't have, we don't have any leadership in the centers we are building, like health centers and educational centers. They didn't have school teachers or nurses. So the sisters and the priests wanted really teachers and nurses to take care of the structures they built. So they wanted me to go to school, that I should become a leader in that society. I was so happy because I wanted to go to school. So they told me, whatever you need, please ask. We are your parents, we are your leaders, we can provide everything. So I started staying there. That time I was a Muslim, and I started school. They took care of me for everything, food, clothing, and whatever I wanted. At the beginning, people at home, my relatives, my father, did not come to see me because they were also afraid. They were Muslims, all of them. So I stayed there almost a year or two without meeting my relatives. But what I wanted is to go to school. So I started studying, and they paid for school fees. They gave me everything, food, and took care of me as a child. At the age of 12, because some of the young boys and girls there were going to church, I also felt now to be attracted to join them. I wanted to be like them. I was so attracted to how they were praying, how they were receiving the Holy Communion. So I asked the priests and the sisters, I wanted to become like those, my friends I was staying with. They said, no, you belong to an Islamic family. If you want, you have to go to ask them. I went home. They refused, and they said, if you do that, then you don't belong to us. But then I went back to the parish. Eventually, I said, it's me, I want. So I got baptized and became a Catholic. Surely at home, they said, you no longer belong to us. You have destroyed our culture and faith. So you belong to where you are staying now. I was not very amused with what they said. I continued studying. Eventually, I asked the past priest, I wanted to become like him, and said again, you are You belong to an Islamic family, though you are a Christian, you have to ask your father. When I went to meet my father, he said, now you are a devil, you belong to hell, and you'll be consumed by fire if you do that. But then I insisted, it's me, I wanted. So I joined the seminary, then I became a priest. Eventually, when I became a priest, people at home started changing now their way of looking at me. When I wanted to celebrate Mass for the first time at home, most of the people there really joined the preparations, including my relatives, although they were Muslims. They started really accepting me. But the chiefs in 12 villages said, we don't want you here. You have destroyed the culture of this tribe. But I continued. Then in 2004, I was appointed bishop of the Diocese of Zomba in Malawi. Then, I became a leader, not only in that part of the world, that part of the country. And I became a leader, as the priests were saying, the sisters were saying, a leader in the diocese. And eventually, in 2014, I was appointed Archbishop of Blantyre Diocese, becoming even more a leader because Blantyre Diocese is the populous diocese in Malawi, a lot of people there. So I became a leader there. I became a leader in the country because I became the chairman of interreligious dialogue, because my background is an Islamic background. People at home started respecting me now. Even the chiefs, those who were refusing me, invited me to say, now you belong to us. You are a chief also. You have made us proud by studying and becoming what you are now, because our name in the area is also known because of you. So I'm a chief also in the village. I was given a village there. In Malawi, I became the chairman of the Episcopal Conference for 7 years. And not only that, in the AMESEA region, that's 8 countries, 10 countries coming together. In AMESEA region, I was appointed vice chairman of the AMESEA region. Not only now a leader in my society, in my group, not only a leader in the Diocese of Zomba, but a leader in Malawi, a leader in AMESEA region, 8 countries. I'm saying this because, yes, I was cut off from the family at the beginning, but when the people saw that, no, I'm becoming very important to society, they started accepting me in the village, accepting me in Malawi. Up to now, I still work with AMESEA region. I am invited to attend meetings and also to represent AMESEA. I visited Eritrea. I visited so many. Now I was in Ghana through AMESEA region. So what should I say? The experience, yes, it was at the beginning very painful because most of the people at home were not happy because of their choice of going to school. And they were not happy because now I changed my religion. I became a Christian, a Catholic at the beginning. And sometimes when I used to go home as a priest, as a seminarian, sometimes I would feel that they think I was not born there, meaning that they were not accepting me as a part of them because of what, maybe because of my education, because of my faith. Whenever locally they discuss issues concerning the families there, very difficult really for me to join them. If I go there, they would keep quiet. They didn't want to share these real issues when I am there. They would feel that, no, I am now far from them. But at the same time, at present, Surely, if they want to talk about development, they invite me. Come, Archbishop, help us. Today, I received a phone call from the villager there that there's a health center. We need this and that and that. So I've become also part of them in order to assist them. So these are the issues which really I feel that now the church at the beginning really wanted to teach and to help us to become really good human beings. Therefore, I'm so happy today to say that really at the beginning, my childhood, from 7 up to where I finished my studies, I felt better because they took care of me. I had good time, good food and everything, good clothes, despite the emotional part of it. And then I had also good health because whenever I got sick, they would really take care of me, take big good hospitals. This is what I felt. Surely now I am an important person really in Malawi. Not only in Malawi, especially in the Mesera region, through what the sisters and the priests gave me when they took me from the village to the parish and to that center. I'm so happy. And if there are ways to improve this, surely we are hoping. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Grace, for grounding our conversation in lived experience, sharing from your personal experience. And we'll return to you later in the conversation. As we continue the conversation, I invite all those joining us today to please submit any questions you have for our panelists in the question and answer, the Q&A box, and we'll do our best to address them in the final portion of our time together today. So now I'd like us to hear from Sister Mary Shamandani Fernando. Sister Shamandani, thank you for being with us today to share not only from your experiences in ministry in Sri Lanka, but also to share about the leadership of women religious in family strengthening and family-based care around the world with the sister-led initiative, Catholic Care for Children International. Sister, your congregation of Our Lady of Charity of the Good Shepherd is one of the first congregations of women religious to commit to serving children in families rather than through residential care. We just heard from Archbishop Masusa on how the experience of separation from his home community and family impacted his life and identity. How have you experienced the transformation of the way you live out your charism as a woman religious? And how does this transformation play out concretely in your ministries? Sister?
Yeah. Thank you, Mary Beth, for this comprehensive question. I would like to answer this question by giving some concrete examples of how the transformation of childcare at Good Shepherd Sri Lanka has developed. My congregation began and responded mainly to the effects and consequences of the French Revolution, mainly to support and sustain the lives of children and women who were deprived of basic needs and who were confronted with many social dysfunctions of the revolution. To respond to this massive catastrophe, institutional care was initiated and the most needy were taken care of. I think it is the same with many other congregations that were created to respond to this kind of social disaster. Yes, for a longer period, my congregation implemented the same strategy to support the most vulnerable. As the Ministry of Good Shepherd developed, we didn't just stick to the one way of providing services. The congregation encouraged its members to look for new ways to reach out to the margins, to introduce effective methods, and to let go of old methods that were irrelevant for today. Of course, the strategies that were relevant 200 years ago may not be relevant today. And there has been a huge wake-up call to change the way we engage our ministries. I can give a very concrete example of how I have experienced this change. The directive of the Congregational Chapter in 2015 invited all provinces and all the members to develop a strategic plan for each country ministry area and to implement best practices. This call for change helped Good Shepherd Sri Lanka to think and to move away from the traditional ways of doing our ministries, especially in the area of childcare. We started to think about involvement in prevention mechanism, which led us to start the community-based child protection programs. We started to realize the importance of family-based care and the negative impact of institutional care on the lives of the participants, and started to motivate our members to this change. Of course, it was not an easy task. At a time, members felt that we were straying from our charism. However, this change of mindset helped us to open up to new possibilities. This helped us to reach out to our own congregational systems and to other like-minded organizations, Catholic Care for Children Internationals, who are working for this change and to gain their support in moving towards family-based care rather than institutional care. It is very important that congregations take the initiative to empower and update their members in reforming their ministries. It is possible with a conviction.
Thank you so much, sister. That was really enlightening and I find very inspiring. I have another question for you. How do you regard the role of women religious in future efforts of the church concerning family strengthening, promoting family-based care, and preventing unnecessary child-family separation? So what's the way forward for women religious?
The role of women religious in future efforts. Yes, we are living in a time when we are witnessing various forms of humanitarian crisis and rapid social changes that have led to destruction of the core of society, which is the unit of the family. Social, cultural, and political realities, as well as the rapid changes in the digital technology, have shaken the foundation of the family structure. And this has called for a special ministry to be more involved in the strengthening of the family and the ministry of family care within the church. It is true that for centuries, we women religious have been involved in the sacred ministry of strengthening families, while being involved in various ministries driven by the charism of the congregations. However, the challenge is how we religious effectively play our role in strengthening families, promoting family-based care, and preventing children from becoming separated from their families. To play this crucial role, we religious need to be equipped and knowledgeable enough to take the risk of working with and supporting families. This requires more skills, and religious need to be empowered in different ways to be effective in this challenging ministry. I think the formation of the religious can play a bigger role in cultivating the passion and the commitment towards this ministry of strengthening families. This is important to be a priority area of formation, both initial and ongoing. Most of our ministries work on the level of reparation rather than prevention. So it is very important that the existing ministries of women religious are transformed to work on prevention of family separation and to focus on strengthening family structures. Also, it is more important to work together as women religious because when strengthening families, it is indeed need different services at different levels, which one organizations or congregations may not be able to provide. So more collaboration between services is very essential. It is a collaborative work. We religious can map out our strengths separately in supporting families, the potentials, our expertise, and can be involved in common mission of strengthening families in an effective and organized way. For this approach, it is essential to develop movement of sisters. Sisters from different congregations should be brought together on one platform. Further, most of the ministries offered by women religious are focused on the individuals. Most of the ministries are concerned with educating, empowering, and supporting individuals rather than family as a whole. It is more important to reach out to families through individuals and to have a holistic approach to support people. Additionally, we need to be given more time and energy to journey with families. Paying more attention to potential families at risk of separation. We also need to develop a consciousness and culture within the parish communities to support each other, strengthening each other before finding institution or any other support in helping their own people. I think this is our work today as women religious. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sister. You brought up so many issues and so many important points about formation, about working together, and about prevention, about helping families before that the needs increase and there's more issues of protection and concern. And so hopefully we'll be able to pick up on some of those great points later on in the conversation. Thank you. I'd like to turn now to my colleague in Haiti, Frederic Jean-Baptiste. So Frederic, I imagine these experiences that we've heard about from Archbishop and Sister resonate with your experiences in accompanying the Catholic Church in Haiti through Catholic Relief Services, particularly with the work of the Changing the Way We Care initiative, which is a global family-based care coalition co-led by CRS and Maestro International. From the perspective of accompanying congregations of women religious and engaging the Haitian Episcopal Conference, what is your experience, Frederic, of how the Catholic Church is engaging in the work of strengthening families and preventing unnecessary child-family separation? And also, what do you see as the role of Catholic organizations such as CRS, but definitely not limited to CRS, in advancing these child-focused efforts? So if you could, I know this is a lot of questions, so if you're able to work this in, great. I would love if you could also just share with us what CRS, what Catholic Relief Services global vision is regarding children and families and the priorities that guide CRS and Changing the Way We Care's work in Haiti. Frederic, you have a big task ahead of you.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Well, we all know, in building on what Sister Shamindani just shared, that the Catholic Church has a long ministry of caring for others. We are starting to see more engagement in the work of strengthening families and preventing unnecessary child-family separation. The process takes time, but the will is ever present. In Haiti, for example, Changing the Way We Care, as you just mentioned, being a global initiative led by CRS and Maestro, CRS being Catholic Relief Services and our partner Maestro. We started a small demonstration project in Haiti in 2017 with the Congregation of Sisters in Port-au-Prince. It was the congregation of the Little Sisters of St. Teresa of the Child Jesus. The sisters' work was so needed in the community when we reached out to them. Prior to the 2010 earthquake in Haiti, the congregation they were administrating a small local school and ran community gardens. However, after the earthquake, families started turning to them as resources in a time of need. And they were placing their children with physical disabilities, hoping that the sisters will help those children find the necessary care and rehabilitation that they so needed. Local access to rehabilitation was rare, and families would often need to take public transportation and go over 2 hours away to receive such a service. And over time, the sisters accommodated their charism and welcomed and housed community children. In mid-2017, after recommendation from the Child Protection Agency in Haiti, IBERS, Changing the Way We Care approached the sisters to encourage a transformation of the care model through technical assistance. At the time, Haiti's Child Protection Agency had recently joined the global child protection movement of promoting family reintegration and children being raised in a family-like setting. Well, we were met with resistance at the sisters congregation, with varying levels of agreement within the sisters' provincial leadership team. And as Changing the Way We Care, we quickly realized that we needed to meet the sisters and the leadership where they were at in their journey, and listening and being fully present to build that trust and move at the speed of the trust that we're building. Well, long story short, over the next 3.5 years, all 28 children were reintegrated and reunified with their families or extended family care, with family strengthening support from the sisters, as mentioned by Sister Shamindani's experience, and our Changing the Way We Care program. The residential care center we worked then to transform or transition the space, the physical space, into a working rehabilitation center for the children with disabilities in the neighborhood, which was a key aspect that we, in working with the sisters and in meeting and working with the community to identify what was needed and how can the congregation continue to be of service within that community. And the response was the rehabilitation center. That was so needed. Now, families no longer need to travel 2 hours away to receive the care, and they no longer feel the pressure to separate from their child because the service was not available within their community. And we also realized as we were approaching the congregations that we are really promoting transformation, a transformation of how we care for children. And we also we needed to take a step back and clearly communicate that the transition, there is also transition of the physical space, but also there's a transformation or transition in the way of being, in the service, in the transformation of the charism of the women, the congregation of sisters. So last year, Changing the Way We Care in Haiti, we started a similar accompaniment with another congregation of sisters outside of Port-au-Prince in the south of Haiti. Now it is the Sisters of Charity of St. Hyacinthe. Although we had a previous experience with another community of women religious, we quickly learned that the journeys are different. The process is not the same with other faith-based groups. Through conversation with the Sisters Provincial Leadership Team, we learned of the International Sisters Group, the International Union of Superiors General, which Sister Shamindani just mentioned, the Catholic Care for Children International, which works directly under the auspices of the International Sisters Union of Superiors. And that they themselves, in 2021, they started encouraging congregations to end the placement of children in large institutions, and instead to start focusing in community-based interventions and family-like alternatives. So this global effort really facilitated our progress with this new community. We're still in the process of working with the Sisters of Charity and St. Hyacinthe in Haiti. And we're already looking forward to what the transformation, both of the charism and of the space and what it would bring in that community. In working with the Catholic Church in Haiti, our learnings to date are to take time to learn and understand the charism of the congregation, because this change is tightly connected to adapting their charism. From an operational point of view, the congregation's hearts are often connected to this practice and way of life. So understanding this helps set the environment to build trust and move at that speed. Now for the second half, or 10 half of your question, Maribeth, about how the CRS engagement, CRS is fully engaged on this journey. Children and families have always been a priority, and that guides our work. And globally, one of the agency's strategic change goal is to support vulnerable children by helping them thrive in safe, healthy, and nurturing families. The agency is playing a great role in influencing local governments, donors, Catholic actors, and other regional and global stakeholders in supporting children and championing this work. Our commitment is especially apparent through the agency's flagship initiative, Changing the Way We Care, which I'm representing today, present in Haiti and other countries. And Changing the Way We Care, as we mentioned at the top, is specifically focused on preventing children from entering residential care centers and working to reunify and reintegrate children currently in orphanages into safe and nurturing families. At CRS, we are hopeful that we are so grateful that we're not alone in this work, and that other organizations and institutions will continue to join us in this journey and championing this type of work. Thank you, Maribeth.
Thank you so much, Frederic. It was a very comprehensive and wonderful answer. I really appreciate your response and your thoughts on that. And we'll get to hear more in a little bit when we have an exchange between the panelists. So now I'd like to turn to Father Hans Zollner. Father Hans, you have a long history in working within the church in the area of child protection and safeguarding from the perspective of systematic theology and psychology. And you currently serve as the founding director of the Institute of Anthropology, which is an academic institute of the Pontifical Gregorian University, which seeks to promote safeguarding measures and the protection of children and vulnerable people through formation, education, and interdisciplinary research. So I'd like you to share with us your insights into how the Catholic Church is forming clergy and lay leaders who are attentive and equipped to ensure all children are able to achieve their God-given health and development potential in a safe and nurturing family. And also, what concrete possibilities exist for the church in this area, especially in light of our conversation at the beginning of this forum concerning the need for a Catholic child-attentive theology and a fuller, more holistic way of understanding children's care and protection beyond solely the prevention of abuse. Father Hans?
Yeah, hello, and thank you very much for the invitation and for this introduction. Thank you also for the organizers, and especially to Gillian for all the conversations that we had in preparation of this meeting and others. And my main message in regard to your questions is the following. The Catholic Church has an enormous, maybe unique potential to be of support for young people and vulnerable people so that they can grow up in a safe space, in a safe relationship, in a safe context. The Catholic Church has done enormously well and enormously much in terms of safeguarding training, and I will come to that in a second. At the same time, we need to acknowledge that within the Church, we have still much to do, not only in the area of safeguarding beyond what is already being done, but especially in listening to victims and survivors of abuse. This is where we are lacking in many parts of the world, and we are not consistent. At the same time, I've said also publicly that the Catholic Church is a child protection organization, that is more effective and is more present than many others in all parts of the world. It is effective and it has a unique potential, as I said before, because it is present from the grassroots level to the highest levels of authority and governance in countries that need attention given to the security, the safety, and the safeguarding of young people and others. So what the Catholic Church has done over the last, let me say, 12 years, because it started at a really global level with the requirement by the so-called Congregation for Doctrine of the Faith, which is now the Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith, in 2011, when this dicastery requested from all bishops' conferences to set up guidelines for safeguarding training, and for implementation of safeguarding measures in all institutions. Now, the Catholic Church is a very, very diverse, a very differentiated, sometimes also a very chaotic institution, where you have a lot of overlap of responsibility and where there is the need to grow in the culture of accountability. So calling on bishops' conferences, dioceses, religious congregations, Catholic schools, Catholic universities, kindergarten, whatever you have, including children's homes, orphanages, and so forth, is one side of the coin. The other side of the same coin is how is what we have in terms of call for action, how is it implemented? And that is not done in a consistent way. You have areas in the world where this is very high on the list of priorities, and you have other areas, sometimes in the same country, sometimes far away, where this is not really taken up in a consistent, congruent, and effective way. So within my experience and what we do at the Institute of Anthropology here at the Gregorian University in Rome is to bring to the table what our proprium is as an academic and educational institution. We train safeguarding personnel for the Church worldwide. We offer programs in safeguarding a one-semester course, which we call a diploma, which is a certificate course, but also academic degrees of 2 years or of a doctorate in safeguarding. And we see that this is also now modeling other approaches in different parts of the world. I have just been to Austria. I've come back 2 weeks back from Brazil and Chile, where you have ongoing formation courses set up. You have academic institutions like universities engaging in this. And we ourselves have established some years back the Global Safeguarding Alliance, which brings together 7 Catholic academic institutions worldwide in an intercultural and interdisciplinary network that has just published an article which had been released 4 or 5 days ago in the foremost journal in our field, an international research journal with the name Child Abuse and Neglect. And in that article, we published the results of a research that brings something to our conversation and comes back to your first question, which was referring to how priests and religious, but also laity, know about what they can do in terms of safeguarding, how they need to engage, and what they need to learn about their position, their roles, their competencies so that the safe space and the safe relationships are really coming about. And the result of that study may surprise some, but it shows clearly that clergy is, according to that study, clergy is formed in a way that many clergy, priests, deacons, but also religious, know and feel confident about the knowledge they have about what abuse is, what victims need, what they need to do when they approach perpetrators, and how they can contribute to safeguarding themselves in the context in which they live. So the somewhat surprising result is that clergy today, not 5, 10, 50 years back, but today seem to be quite confident about what they have learned, what they have been obliged to do in terms of obligatory training sessions, and what they can and should actually do actively to create safe space and safe relationships. Not the same can be said about laity. In the same research, it shows that laity doesn't feel the same confidence, which in my view is also telling in the sense that many families feel somehow left out of the picture, and they feel that they, in their care for their children, are not really well supported. This is why I have called on bishops and other church leaders to really take seriously the formation of parents or of any caregiver in the Catholic Church, because the engagement that the Church shows with families immediately pays off when it comes to sensitivity about how abuse looks like, how you can approach victims of abuse or alleged victims of abuse, how you can find out what may be of help for those who have suffered harm and hurt, and how you challenge the perpetrators, or better still, how you break the cycle of abuse. So on one hand, as I said, the Church has done not the necessary till now to really bring justice to the victims from the past, distant or recent past. But the Church has engaged in a considerably, reliable and competent way in terms of safeguarding guidelines, safety concepts, and many religious sisters are on the forefront of this. Many religious congregations around school are doing a good job here. We could do much better in reaching out to families and strengthening families, because as all of us who work in this field for many years know very well, 90 or 95% of abuse, sexual abuse of children happens within the context of the family, and the rest, only 10 to 5%, within the context of schools, children's homes, sports, youth activities, or religions, including the Church. So the main focus for safeguarding young girls and boys today is surely the family and the family context. So if we did better as a Church also to reach out to families, and if we were more consistent as a Church in our approach, we could be of enormous help to many people, to many young people who then grow up and remain with their hurt and their feelings of having been abandoned as adults for many decades, with a huge cost for them and with a huge cost to humanity as such. The last point, your last question, was about the theology of the child. Now, interestingly, there is no theology of the child that has been developed over the last centuries, one can say. Interestingly, for a religion that builds on the faith in the birth of God in the child Jesus, it is surprising that there is no developed theology of the child in no denomination in the Christian denominations, which is somehow really astounding. However, of late there have been a few attempts to bring that to the focus. Karl Rahner in the 50s published an article that is still worthwhile reading, especially because of provocative questions about how we as Christians understand children not only as small adults, as they are still treated in many parts of the world today when they have to work, are forced to work at 5 or 8 years of age, or are married off at 14 or 15 years of age, when their consent cannot be taken for granted, of course. But to really build on the Child Rights Convention that the Holy See has also signed, and all the implications of that Child Rights Convention, but also filling it in from a psychological and a theological and a spiritual point of view that promotes the dignity of young people and takes care of those who are most vulnerable.
Thank you so much, Father Hans. That was really just very enlightening. I really appreciate that you brought, that you're bringing to this conversation today. As we've heard from different panelists today, there's many different aspects of the church that have been actively involved in various aspects of children's care and protection. And at CRS and with Changing the Way We Care, we've been privileged also to support the promising work of Catholic leaders and structures in East and Southern Africa, who are increasingly prioritizing family-based care of children in their organizational strategies and policies, and in their stewardship of the church's time, treasure, and talents. We have learned of several recent resolutions that were recently made by AMASEA, which is the body that Archbishop mentioned a little while ago, the Association of Member Episcopal Conferences in Eastern Africa, which is the regional body of 8 national bishop conferences in Eastern Africa that build on the learnings and experiences of the church in Kenya. And these resolutions that we've learned about include conducting an analysis to better understand the state of church-led care in their Eastern African countries, and the commitment of all member conferences of all those countries to include family care in their pastoral plans and to coordinate efforts of those who provide church ministries, such as priests, women and men religious sisters and brothers, and lay leaders, which we heard about from Father Hans, just the importance of that. So Your Grace, we could go back to you for a moment, and then we're going to open it up in a moment to the entire panel for an exchange. But just as you mentioned earlier that you were the vice chair, you're the former vice chair of AMASEA, so you're very well aware of both the incredible promise and the challenges ahead with transforming the way the church in Eastern Africa serves children and families. So please share your insights into what the church needs to take into consideration in moving forward and ensuring that children grow up in safe and nurturing families and communities. And we'll just take a couple minutes for this, and then we'll move on to our panel conversation together.
Thank you so much for that question, which is very challenging. But in AMASEA region, as bishop conferences come together to share this challenging environment in the modern world, we have come together to say, yes, the taking care of children is very important for us, because as we say, The church is the family of God. So we have the nucleus family. At the end, we have the church as also a family. We, as a Messiah, we created, we call small Christian communities. We are celebrating Golden Jubilee of small Christian communities where 3, 4, or 5 families come together to make a wider family. Therefore, through there, the children can be taken care of, not only one family, but through several families. So we emphasize also the coming together of several families so that they can share their challenges, they can share their problems, also even their positive side of their lives. So their children also can be taken care of as a community, a wider community. Secondly, yes, we have accepted the challenges that have come from the world that we need these policies of safeguarding. Through the support of CRS, Messiah is also really part of that, accepting these guidelines that we should really take care of the children within the family, also with the congregations which are there. We should follow certain rules, certain guidelines, so that we make sure that the children are protected. We take these guidelines, these child care policies, not only in small Christian communities, but also even in our houses of formation, the seminaries, and also where the sisters are forming their students. There, these guidelines are being taught, shared with others, so that those who are becoming sisters, those who are becoming priests, those who are becoming leaders can also, they are able to know how the children are protected. So Messiah region really is trying its best to welcome new challenges, but we are saying it's very good, very important that we as a family, as a church, as a family, to take care of the children. I should say also that, in the Messiah region, we are very much blessed. There are so many children. Yes, some are in the streets, others in good families, but most of the children in the villages and the streets really need the church, need the church in the Messiah to support them. We shouldn't just live like that. We know that in the Messiah region, also we are affected much with HIV/AIDS, where parents were really wiped out. If we leave the children without really taking care of them, they will not be good citizens in the Messiah region. Therefore, Messiah is encouraging that the congregations, the centers, to really take those children who are very vulnerable, those coming from the streets, those in the villages who don't have any relative, don't have any parent to take care of. They should do that, but following the new rules, the new guidelines, the policies which are set there globally. We are ready to welcome that, but we shouldn't leave this mission to say, no, let us, those who are children who are very vulnerable, those who don't have parents, no relatives, should just be left without taking care of them. We should take care of them because they are part of the family as a church. So we are ready to welcome rules or some policies which can help to really support the children who are vulnerable. Very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Grace. That was very, very wonderful to hear. I'd like to open the floor up now for all the panelists, if you can come on camera. And I have a common question that I would like to pose, and we'll take a few minutes to engage as a panel, and then we have some wonderful questions coming in from the Q&A box, and so we will take time to answer as many of those questions as well. So this is a question to any of the panelists. Throughout this series, we have consistently heard of the lack of a Catholic theology of the child or of childhood. What impact does this lack of a theology of the child have, not only in the lives of children and families, but also on the church herself, the body of Christ? Does anyone feel called to respond to that question or those questions? Sister.
Yes, Mary Beth, may I?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. Catholic social teaching regards the family as the domestic church. It is so beautiful. And this ensures that the family has an important place in the church. Since the church has rightly focused on the family, the teaching and services must also be directed towards strengthening the family. Of course, I think it is high time for the church to think about developing a theology of childhood and also of the family. The question to be asked is, what space and importance is given in the formation of priests and religious to the importance of caring for children in the family setting and strengthening the family through the ministry of church? Is there any exposure and effective training given in the formation period that focuses on strengthening the family? If there is a separate teaching on this or a theology, it can easily be included in the formation. If not, the focus on family strengthening may not be given priority in the level of ministry. Theology of the family and children will help to develop attitudes and actions that place the child and the family at the center of everything we do in the church. It will also help to educate the faithful to care for their own ecclesial community, as I mentioned earlier, to feel the pain of others, to initiate strengthening of families themselves, and to develop within the communities a culture of care for the need within the communities. This approach certainly will help to develop the spirit of one body and to put that spirit into practice. At the same time, in order to have a common mindset and some common principles regarding the care of the children, it is very important to have a theology for this area. Today, we see different attitudes within the church about how to support children at risk and about institutional care. That's why it is so difficult to change attitudes and practices and to promote family-based care sometimes within the church. That's why we don't have enough services and structures within the church to strengthen families. Now, one set of teaching will help to have a common mindset, right thinking, and the change would have been much easier, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. Yes, definitely that commonality, working together with a common framework and having a common vision, I think is so important. And we heard about that from Father Hans too, in the overall safeguarding work about how important that is. Do others have responses to what sister said or to the question itself that they would like to add from the panel? All right, I'm going to move to another question, but feel free, if other thoughts come to you, feel free to chime in and share some additional thoughts. I want to still stay kind of on this theme of theology of childhood, theology of the child. And sister began to respond to this as well, which I think is really helpful, but want to give space to what opportunities and challenges do you foresee for the church in building on our rich foundation to develop and to cultivate a Catholic theology of childhood? What would it take to catalyze the Catholic Church to affirm her theological foundation regarding children in families and develop a comprehensive theology with the child at its center, and to promote this safeguarding spirituality and a culture of protection and prevention in the global Catholic Church? So it's really an extension of what I was asking previously. Are there thoughts that that any of the panelists would like to share on that question? Or is this just good food for thought right now? All right. I think we might come back if we have some time to some other questions that came up as I was hearing panelists speak. But I'd like to give some time to the questions that have come in through the chat box. And so give me one moment, please, as I go back and look at a couple of those questions. So we have several that I think are really for Archbishop. But I think actually I want to start at a different angle first and then perhaps work back. So we have a question about, I lost it again, excuse me. Okay, here we go. I think a really important point is that what Father Hans brought up about much of the sexual abuse happening within the family, not in a school or not in another setting, but actually in a domestic setting. And so I know that within residential care, in this family care work and the family-based care work and care reform, we talk a lot about the risks for children who are living in institutional care, living in residential care of abuse. But I think this statistic I think is accurate. I think a lot of, most children do live in families, and that is families are not always a safe space for children. So what can the church do to really be able to strengthen families and to prevent abuse? And let me see if there's anything more from the question itself, because I thought it was yeah, maybe I think there's just that. And we've heard a little bit of that, an answer to that. This question was posed earlier. But I would like if panelists have other ideas about how we can, as we work to having children be reintegrated into families from residential care, preventing children from entering residential care, what needs to be done so that we have families that are safe and nurturing environments for children? Father Hans?
Yeah. I would like to comment on the general question, because it is part of the question which I've read also in the chat. As I said, every expert in the field knows that most abuse, sexual, and let us also talk about physical abuse or psychological abuse, happens within the context of the family. By far, most abuse. And it is very often at least as hidden as it is in institutions. So the presumption that children are safer in their own family as compared to institutional care or of whatever kind is not matched by reality, which means we believe, or we hope, or we try to convince ourselves that children are safer with their mother, with their father, or the stepfather, or the brothers, or the uncles, or the grandfather and the grandmother, and so forth. While, as every statistic that we have tells us, that is not the case. This is not about good or bad, or worse or better. It is just acknowledging reality that institutional care is not per se less safe than the family context. At least there is no scientific proof for such an affirmation. Which is part of a research project that we are conducting in collaboration with one of the big US Catholic foundations that is interested in finding out in an African country, actually in Uganda, what are measures so that children in institutional care, as well as in family care, are safe or are as safe as you can possibly think of and wish for. So the criteria for that safety and how to help families and how to help institutions so that they are a safe space and can develop in an ever safer space is of interest. And unfortunately, there is not much done on that side of research. Also because of perhaps ideological presuppositions that think that institutional care per se is less safe. We have no proof of such a statement. However, and in line of what has been said before and how we can engage as a church so that families are more aware of the risks and are more equipped for, safeguarding in a comprehensive way, in detecting sources and risks of abuse, in addressing it, in stopping it, and not only in preventing abuse, but also in actively and positively creating safe space and safe relationship. That is something that we should engage with much more. And I see also the lack of a theology of childhood over the decades and centuries that have passed as one indicator that we have not thought about that. It has been presupposed, and there was very little active engagement in that same line. So when we talk about theology of the child from a Christian point of view, from a Catholic point of view, that is not far away from how we then motivate and bring people to reflect on what it means to really engage in family support in a pastoral approach that helps the single family environments that we have, or in many parts of the world where women live with children from different partners, and the partners that come in and move out have the biggest opportunity to make use, to abuse the children of the previous partners of that person, of this woman, which is called the serial monogamy, which is in some parts of, for example, Central America, quite frequent. And which presents an enormous risk for the safety and the dignity of young people. I believe that family is one of the key elements of bringing up young people in a safe environment, and the church should really focus on that and should equip families with what is needed so that children are safe, but also how parents, not only for their own families, can engage in a much more effective support system that could be offered by the Catholic Church. What I said before, we have so much potential, we make so little use of that. But this needs commitment in terms of allocation of means, allocation of personnel, training of personnel, and this is what we want to strengthen and what we will call on in every occasion that we have. Catholic Church can be a game changer, but we need to take up the challenge for that.
Thank you so much, Father Hans. Archbishop, Your Grace.
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to really add more weight to what Father said, that strengthening the families, very, very important really for the education of children and also guarding. In the Messiah region, this is what we really emphasize to family, father and mother, and also the relatives. If we strengthen them they should remain united. Surely the children will come up very well. They will grow very well. At the same time, as we in the Mesilla region really experience so many children coming up, but the parents sometimes they are very poor, or they are dead because of diseases. Is when we are saying also, as a family, church as a family, the small Christian communities really also could play a very important role. That 2, 3, 4 families coming together will take that role where the parents have died, where the parents don't have much to do because they are very poor. The other parents, the other families can support the children there. That means, community life is very important within that setting, that village setting. Very, very important. Again, surely I will always talk about the congregations, the sisters. They are part of the family also as a church. They will always support. So I would like to emphasize also the training of those who are taking care of the children. They should be trained. Like information in the communities in the congregation, they should be aware of how vulnerable the children are. And also in seminaries, these young boys should be really made aware right away from the beginning that this topic of taking care of children, they should know that very well, and they grow in awareness of how to take care of the children. I would also like to emphasize on the advocacy of bishops coming together. We should talk every now and then, that people should understand that the children are really vulnerable. So bishops should not just leave this issue aside. We in the Mesilla region should continue also to talk about safeguarding, that in every institution, every place where really people are taking care of children, they should be aware of the safeguarding. They should be aware of the gift they are protecting, the gift of children, so that they should really not be so isolated, but work together. In the Mesilla region, we emphasize this wider community supporting one another, not only just mother and the father, but we are to support one another, to share this information, so that every person should be aware of what the children are looking for, what the children are needed. They need a lot of support from us. So training and also small Christian communities can play a bigger role, and people information should be given all the necessary tools in order to take care of the children. Thank you.
Frederick, did you have something? I wasn't sure if you had something on this topic that you wanted to share, or if not, it's okay.
I wanted to share in our experience, particular to Haiti, and as I mentioned at the top, the context, it varies per region, per country, and even within a country can vary based on the experiences. It's really complex. In our experience, particularly in Haiti, I mentioned how IBELS, being the child protection arm of the state in our country, they really made the shift on doing this promotion, actively promoting and working with institutions to transform the way they're working, and for working with families for children to go back home. And our accompaniment to IBELS and other organizations, and CRS, our Catholic Changing the Way We Care, we're not the only initiative or organizations working in that goal in country. So we tackle it in different facets. So yes, there's a work to be done at the institution level, and as the Archbishop mentioned, in terms of training, and we've seen in terms of the experiences of in Sri Lanka with Sister Shamindani as well, with the training that accompanies the congregation but also there's a training that's to be done in the communities. So it usually accompanies, the effort is always accompanied by this change of behavior, change of understanding of how the residential care centers work, their limits, what they can provide and what they cannot provide. So IBELS, for example, the shift in following the global shift of promoting family care, family-based care for children instead of residential care centers. It was following an investigation or evaluation that they conducted in our institutions in Haiti. Prior to the 2010 earthquake, Haiti had about 300 orphanages nationwide. After the earthquake in 2010, that number skyrocketed to 750 plus. And yes, at the time of catastrophe, families were separated, and immediately within the next 2 years, IBEL started working with partners, family tracing, reintegration of children, and building on to where we were at in 2017 when they really were sharing that global move to family-based care. And why? What was the reason of that aside from the global movement? But in country, this evaluation of the 750 plus residential care centers, out of 750 plus, only 30 of them, 33 were providing the standards of care. And the vast majority of the other ones, they were documented cases of abuse, of neglect, of exploitation. IBELS do not have the full capacity at this time being, and that's why they rely a lot on partners such as Changing the Way We Care, CRS, and other partners in country to help move the word forward and help families understand while residential care centers can be a key resource, but they're not always able to provide that answer. And so yes, generous donors support and care deeply for children in those facilities, but they're not always able to provide all the attention and stimulation that have been proven to be critical to a child's development. And our approach in country, and I'm sure in all the other countries in child protection, has been to have a child-centered approach and to make sure that in our work for family mediation and return home, that it is being done in a safe manner, that families receive the strengthening, maybe economically and other through positive parenting training, open spaces to share, psychological support. And so it's really at different levels. And I'm sure the context really matters. And that has been our experience in Haiti. And yes, we're moving slowly but surely.
Thank you, Frederique. Great. Well, I think we have time for one last question, and I see kind of a theme that in some of the questions related to family strengthening and the need to, as you've mentioned, Frederique, it's not just the church doing this alone. You're very much the work of Changing the Way We Care in Haiti is very much engaged with working with governmental structures and doing that together and not in isolation. And we've seen that also in the work happening in Eastern Africa, in Kenya, very much the church and the government being both important actors in creating healthy families and having a support system. I'd like if we could have each of our panelists share answers to what we need to do to make sure that we are creating the right support systems for families. We've heard some great questions here. Sister Naluka, who is the head of Catholic Care for Children International, really says, we need to create more support systems around the family if we're going to do this. And how can we do that? And she's specifically asking with among women religious and men religious. But I think we also can consider this even broader. So I'd like to hear any responses to and also I think there was a question that came in about, for you specifically, Archbishop, that what is needed for more partnerships and support for you to be able to do this work in family strengthening? What do you need as a bishop to be able to really help support, strengthen families? So I'll open it up to anyone who feels like they would like to respond to this question about creating support systems around the family and how we can foster that. We have a shy group. Sister?
Yes, yes, Mary Beth. Even as I mentioned earlier, support. We need support system, and many more services are involved in strengthening families. We can't do all alone. We can't support families all alone. It is very important to involve others, to get others' expertise. And there are a lot to learn from others because many have gone before us. And we can take the experiences, learning from them. So what I feel uh, in global level, there are many who journey with us parallelly. So it's very important we all coming together and support and enrich each other, sharing our challenges and to be a strength to everyone as we journey together. So this is very important. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. Archbishop, Your Grace.
Yes, thank you so much for this challenging question. How together can we support families? First of all, in the region, Amasea region, we still need education, the formal education, so that when we train our boys and girls that they have really received good education, surely it will be possible for them now to understand who they are. Because the common thing is when boys and girls come together, especially in the villages, those who are not educated, they just come and they have children. It's very difficult really to really even take care of the children. So I would like to emphasize that in our area here, in the Amasea region, we still have people who are not young boys and girls who are not well educated. Let us continue to really have a good background of education to our children, first of all. And secondly, yes, we need training for those who are preparing for marriage. They have to be trained. They have to know the beauty of family. They have to know their responsibilities before they come together. We have really to bring, as a church, supported by CRS and other organizations, to train these boys and girls who are ready for marriage, to give them lessons to say it is a vocation, because marriage is a vocation. It's a calling from God. It's not just, we are born to be there. No, but it's a calling, it's a vocation. People should be ready for that. I used to tell the people that, as seminarians, take 7 years, 8 years to become priests. It should be the same, not 7 years, 10 years to marry, but we should really have a very important training for the youth who are ready to get married. That one we cannot do on our own. We need really some resources in order to train these young people before they get married. And also we should encourage, in the Amasea region, we have family movements like Marriage Encounter. These are groups which are supporting one another, knowing how to take care of the children and also how to love one another. We have Christian family movements, Couples for Christ. All these, if we can support these movements, these groups, coming close to them always, I think they'll be able to have a very good family background, and that will also support the children. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Grace. I'm recognizing that we are actually over time with our allotted time for the webinar. And I don't know if Frederic or if Father Hans, if you had any parting words. I know that I said you would have time to respond to that last question. So feel free if you would like to share anything briefly, and then we will wrap up. Father Hans? No? All right. Frederic, do you have any parting words related to family strengthening? No.
Yes, for the foster care question, I entered directly into the Q&A. And last parting words from me is that we remain really hopeful that more partners continue to join us on this journey. And it's so rewarding. And CRS's commitment to strengthening families so children can be raised at home remains our goal. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Frederic. Well, on behalf of the Faith in the Family Forum, Georgetown University Catholic Relief Services, the Changing the Way We Care initiative, I just want to thank our panelists today for this rich conversation. I think we could be talking the rest of the day. So this has been really exciting. And what I think is even more exciting is the opportunity that we can continue, perhaps not as part of this webinar series, since we're at the end of this, but that this is not the end of the conversation. Rather, as we've said today, it is so important that we're working together and that we are engaging in order to be able to prevent child-family separation and to really allow children to achieve their God-given potential in safe and nurturing families. So I thank you all for being with us today, and invite people going forward that we do have a blog online that people can contribute, and we'll probably keep that open for a little bit longer. And I don't know if we're prepared to put that in the chat box, but if not, feel free to look online and see the criteria if you'd like to share any of your own thoughts related to these efforts and to family strengthening and preventing child-family separation. So thank you all for being with us today. Thank you, panelists, and I look forward to continuing the conversation. Have a wonderful rest of your day.